And let's bring in the main man himself, the Hall of Famer, Jerry Jones, brought to you by Ford. Ford is the best in Texas, with Sean and Fish. Jerry, I apologize off the bat for Mike Fisher co-hosting today, so please accept that.
Well, you guys are getting to the bottom of the barrel, but it is late in the year, and you've got to bring them in when you need to replace these players. You're coming off the bottom. Fish, it's always good to know you're there anyway.
Fish,
I'm still here, sir.
Fish, give us one of your favorite Jerry stories, hopefully where he scared the crap out of you or gave it to you like you deserve.
Well, I won't tell the issue of what I screwed up or went too far or whatever, but there was an in-house phone at Valley Ranch. So Jerry built me a little office, my own little office, and little offices. Instead of cubicles, we had offices. And my phone rang one day, and it was in-house. So it was coming from Marilyn Love's office. And she puts Jerry on the phone, and Jerry says, "Mr. Mack?" I say, "Yes, sir." He says, "This time you've painted your ass into a corner you ain't never going to get out of." And that was a little scary.
Okay.
That was a little scary. I don't know if you remember it because you probably told a lot of people, Jerry, that they painted their ass into corners.
Hey, not in the same way I can communicate with you. But Mike has certainly been a part of this thing. When I think of my career, frankly, with the Cowboys, I just don't remember it when Mike wasn't a part of it. And really, candidly, I've over the years really enjoyed not reading what he has to say or listening to him on a broadcast, but I've enjoyed just talking with him on a personal basis. And he's got a lot of talent and is a great friend.
So, Jerry, our reaction to the amazing complete win against the Rams was, there it is. That's what Jerry's been saying. They're capable. This is the talent we saw in training camp. And then the other reaction was, where has this been? Why can't we get more of this? Are those reactions fair?
Well, I think the nature of football, as it, let's say, pertains to evaluating a player, once you've seen a player make a play, certainly plays, but once you've seen them, you know they can do it. Now, that's only a part of the equation, and may be the easiest part of the equation to evaluate. Can they do it? Yeah. The next thing is how consistent. You've heard that word a lot out of our head coach's mouth in particular lately, but the bottom line is under what conditions, when will they do it? Or better still, when will they let you down? When will they won't do it? And so I've never thought that we didn't have the ability and have the players out there with the ability to play a game like we played the other day. It is important, though, that you get it together. And Dak says complementary, the offense, defense, special teams complementing each other. That is the real bar. And I was glad to see us get it done the other day. And that should be encouraging because the only thing that part of this equation that doesn't work is if you get serious injury in key spots after this marathon we call a season in the NFL. We're pretty healthy. And so if we can get our different phases of our game together here, we do have the talent, I think, to make a good showing right now.
Jerry Jones here on The Fan. After the game, Jason said in the locker room, we wanted to recapture our DNA. You used the word physical with the way that run defense was, with the way Zeke ran. What would you say is you all's DNA that you want to establish, Jerry?
You know, I think the strength of our team going into the year, the strength of our team during these last few years has, you can picture our DNA, if you will, the face is that strong offensive line. Very smart group, but a group that is very physical. And that's really what we'd all like for people to think about when they think of the Dallas Cowboys right now, is that offensive line. And that means not only to not be trite, but that's certainly protection, but it's also imposing your will. And I know those are pretty dramatic terms, but imposing your will. And an offensive line as a unit has the ability, they have the part of the game that they impact, the ability to really be a together dominant. That's what you saw Sunday in my mind.
Jerry, you've addressed the team at different points over the course of 30 years. Jason Garrett on Saturday night gave a speech to the team that a lot of players came away and said that was about the best we've ever heard. And then Garrett spoke again after the game. Can you kind of take me inside to some of the things that Garrett touched on that jumped out for you?
One of Jason's outstanding qualities is his ability to communicate. It is actually surprising to me that he has critics that basically have issue with his seemingly scripted messages. But he also believes in repetition, as most coaches do, and he wants to make those points first and foremost, and those are the points really that it takes to affect the winning of a football game. And so that's why I think that you hear him over and over again in many ways say some of the very same things. And but make no mistake about it, Jason spoke to our owners this past spring, and you could have heard a pin drop. It was eloquent. And these weren't prepared notes, but Jason stays prepared. And so he has very, very good communication skills. And really, when he's up there close, you'll find him to be very genuine in how he approaches things, very thoughtful. And this comes across in his relationships. I heard Barry Switzer one time say, the dressing room, the locker room to me is not a team meeting. It's a gathering of all of my personal relationships. And that's the way Gary operated. That's the way Parcells operated. I see those communication skills in Jason, and, of course, you get better at that as you move along.
You know, Jerry, you just took us to a fascinating angle because we know that Jason is different behind the scenes, but I think with the public and us interviewing him, that's forgotten, especially compared to you, where you give us a lot more personality and some charm mixed in there. Is there, and Belichick does the same as Jason publicly, is there anything that could benefit Jason by giving away a little more or not being as scripted publicly, or is this the way to be?
I don't know how to do that. I know you get beeped on this thing and can get cut off the air if you use the wrong word. But the real difference in me and Jason Garrett is that he doesn't have near the BS that I have. And that's a plus if you really get to thinking about it. And he covers a lot of ground in short periods of time, and I think that's a big plus, especially when you're addressing it to the framework of communicating with the team and directing a team.
Jerry, speaking of BS and get your act together and the rest, you famously have done a little bit of that on The Fan here. How much when you're doing that in public, whether it's after the game or on the radio, is trying to express your true passion, anger, happiness, and how much is making sure the audience knows, listen, Cowboy Nation, I'm so mad, I'm going to swear on the radio? Well,
we all have ways to get our point across. And one of the things that kind of I think I use is you can have a lot of frailties in your content if you put a lot of emotion, heat it up. It's kind of like cooking. You can miss some ingredients in a good recipe, but if you make it so hot it burns the roof of their mouth, or if it's supposed to be cold, make it like hot ice. You can cut away a lot of the frailties of the content.
Jerry Jones here with Sean and Fish on The Fan. I'm dying to know what you thought of the coin toss controversy. Take us through that, including what you were thinking throughout the first half and when you knew that you were actually going to get that ball to start the third.
Well, I knew at the same time everyone knew it, and I was aware of the controversy as we moved on away from the actual coin toss. And frankly, was buoyed by the fact that we address that type situation in our rules in the NFL, because that's one that should and could be addressed. That didn't have, in my mind, but one conclusion. Obviously, you would like the choice of whether you receive or don't receive. If you decide to waive that on the first decision-making time, which is at kickoff, and that's called deferring, and but that leaves you with the ability to go either way at the half. Who wouldn't take that if you were not wanting to be the first one with possession going into the game, which we didn't want to have? Usually you see that happen in today's NFL. The other team the team that wins the toss defers to the other team.
Why don't we just simplify it and get rid of the coin toss and just give the visiting team the ball to start the game?
Oh, listen, Fish, we, for one reason for me alone, and that is one of the very first games I was ever involved in, I get a call from Elizabeth Taylor's agent, and he asked if I could walk her on the ensuing Monday night after the Sunday game, if I could walk her kind of in a presentation at the stadium for all of the retail customers that might buy her perfume called Passion. I said, well, would she walk out on the field and do the coin toss for us on Sunday before the game? She agreed to do that. I called Pete Rozelle and said, what's our rule on this? And I was it was the first time I'd really ever called him. And he said, well, what do you got in mind? And I told him about Elizabeth Taylor not wanting me, wanting her to do the coin toss. He loved it. Thought admired her like everybody else did. We go out to the coin toss, and Washington wins the coin toss. And Elizabeth says, I call it for the Cowboys. And the officials were, of course, everybody was just in awe. And they give it to her, and we turned away. And man of the Redskins said, hey, wait a minute here. We're the visiting team. We're supposed to make the call. I just waved back and kind of waved him away and said, Elizabeth's already made it. We got the ball. We're out of here.
Jerry Jones with us here on 105.3 The Fan. So Troy Aikman loves his Cowboys, just like you love your Cowboys. You know that, right? You agree with that? Aikman loves the Cowboys.
Dyed and wool. I know he is. He does a great job of being impartial in his broadcast, but we know his deep-seated affection for the Dallas Cowboys.
There you go. So if Aikman was ever involved in owning a team, would Aikman also want to run the team, not dislike Jerry Jones, not unlike Jerry Jones?
I don't want to speak for Troy, but Troy loves football. We all know that.
Yeah.
In this case, he loves the Cowboys. And I would dare say if he had owned the team, if he'd given everything that he had ever given in his life. Now, by the way, Troy emptied his bucket, everything that he had when he came to the Cowboys. And he got more after he got here, I agree. But everything he was up till then, he emptied the bucket that day, just like I did, to become a Cowboy. Now, I would wager that if he did that to buy the team, he would do it exactly like I do it. I would wager that because you just want to ultimately, with that much on the line and that much at stake, you want to break any ties and make the calls. However, knowing him, I know how he was attentive to North Turner. I know how he was had deference to many people to get better. He would be a great listener or a great acceptance of direction and advice. Hopefully I have that as well. And it's a misnomer to think that I throw darts and just say, we'll do it this way, that way. I've never done that, but as I've said many times, I've never not made the ultimate decision.
Hey, Jerry.
Yes.
Why don't you and Troy Aikman go to lunch? I'll buy.
Listen, I've had a lot of lunches and a lot of great times with Troy, and he's someone that I can't tell you how much I respect him and how much I have appreciate his lineage with the Dallas Cowboys. And apart from these kinds of issues, we've had business together, so we're doing fine. We just, I know this, that he certainly would like to be, it sounds like that he'd like to be involved in the long-term involvement in a team, maybe the Cowboys. I understand that. Can you think of anybody, Fish, that would understand that more than me? I did any and everything I could to get to live the life that I live, and that's to be involved in everything from socks to jocks that there is with the Dallas Cowboys. That's the way it is.
All right, Jerry, we'll let you go with this. Set us up for the division title fight on Sunday. What you're anticipating in terms of those fans greeting you when you arrive and the game to decide it all for the NFC East.
Well, the city of brotherly love will be certainly happy to see the Cowboys come to town, and they won't disappoint. And I remember early when I would have my young grandchildren, real young, go to the games up there, and I would take another family, Father Tribu's family, and who many of them live in that area. And they were just so sensitive to the kinds of things that you get when you go to Philadelphia, kind of open criticism and the unabashed show of emotion that those Eagle fans have. I'll never forget, if you will. I went down on the field when Michael Irvin couldn't move, and really they got a bad rap that day. They had some of them not understand that he was seriously hurt, and we got in the ambulance right out on that field and took him over to the hospital. I'll never forget. I was driving along. I had his wife Cindy on the phone, and we were talking, and Michael couldn't move a muscle, and we were in the ambulance as we drove over to the deal, and I looked down, and he was doing his fingers and moving them. I said, Cindy, you can move them, baby. I said, he's moving. And he gradually regained some of his ability to move. But where I'm going with that is there's a lot of wonderful, some 30 years, frankly, of emotion and thoughts that I have when I think of going up to play a football game in Philadelphia.
Jerry, fantastic as always. Much more fun. It's always enjoyable, but much more fun after a win. And I assume you would piggyback off Steven yesterday with this NFL Network report of Sean Payton interest in the offseason.
Now, I'm not aware of what Steven said, but, it's pretty easy, always has been, for people to associate us personally with Sean. He coached here, and we have a great relationship. We're great friends. I can't go to New Orleans in my plane and land and not have reports that I'm down there to talk to Sean about coaching the Cowboys. But that's just not the case, and that's as a result of the long-term friendship and relationship that we've had. But he's a king there. He should be. He's earned it, and he's got a tremendous respect in that area. I love those New Orleans and the Houdat group. I love them down there.
This is fantastic, Jerry. Be safe in Philly and bring back an NFC East title. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.